Well, good afternoon. Welcome to another conversation at the table. I am Chad Brusson. I am the pastor at the table of Los Fresnos. Hope you're having a great Monday. Another week of the new normal. So what are your plans for the week? What are you hoping to accomplish before Friday gets here? That's going to be a little different for some of you, for many of us, because this is Memorial Day week. And we're looking forward to the Memorial Day weekend, right? And it's kind of hard to believe we're there already. And again, another week of the new normal leading into a Memorial Day weekend that won't be anything like the Memorial Days that we've ever experienced, but here it is. So, how is your week looking so far? Yesterday we had a meeting, we had a gathering in our driveway. It was great. The table met, just a few of us. We had the mass. We did the social distancing, but it was great. We had a great conversation. Had a little bit of prayer. So it was interesting. It was good to see each other and be in the same place at the same time together, and having that conversation. We're going to do it again Sunday, and you're invited. So again, 10:30, our driveway. It'll be good as long as the weather. As long as the weather's good. And yesterday we had a very, very good Sunday morning. Yesterday we also took a look at Moses in our online service. We took a look at Moses and Moses in quarantine. And Moses was in quarantine for a long time. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. He was in quarantine for 40 years. That's a long time to be off in another place. Exodus chapter 2 is where we were yesterday. And Moses, of course, at the beginning of the chapter, he's born, and then it skips. We have the birth of Moses, and then it skips forward to a time in which Moses is obviously an adult. He's raised in Pharaoh's house, and then at some point observes an Egyptian beating up or whatever. He's assaulting a Hebrew. He steps in. And the next thing you know, Moses kills this guy. And then Moses is on the run. Moses leaves Egypt and then runs far, far away to a land that is far away from Egypt. And so he ends up in a place called Midian, where he becomes a shepherd. What's interesting, as this story moves from Moses' birth to this killing of an Egyptian, again, there's a lot of time that passes that isn't accounted for. And then we move from this killing of an Egyptian to a well in Midian, where Moses runs away. When Moses runs away, he ends up at a well, and there he meets his wife. And before you know it, they're having a son. He names this son Gershom, and it means I have been a resident alien in a foreign land. So that's what we're going to kind of hone in on today, is this being a resident alien in a foreign land. You see, this has been the case for the Israelites. If we began with Exodus chapter 1, we would see, Israel's been living in Egypt for a long time. In fact, they've been living in Egypt for about 400 years. Israel ends up there because 400 years earlier, there had been a big famine in that part of the world. And Joseph's family, Jacob and his sons, all go to Egypt looking for food. They end up getting the food in Egypt, and they end up staying there, living there, putting down their roots there. Israel ends up becoming a great people in Egypt, a land that is not their own. And they recognize the fact that they are foreigners living in a foreign land. So Israel themselves have been aliens in a foreign land for about 400 years. So Moses names his son resident alien in a foreign land. Moses' experience is the experience of the Israelites, resident aliens in a foreign land. So both Moses and Israel are aliens living in a foreign land, or living as aliens, foreigners, away from home. Life is out of sorts. And so as we move from Exodus 1 to Exodus 2, when we see Israel and Moses, both foreigners in a country that is not their own, and both in need of redemption. And salvation is what's coming. Because at the end of Exodus chapter 2, as we move, as the comment is made that Moses has named his son Gershom, which is alien in a foreign land, this is the very next thing that the text tells us. After a long time, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned because of their difficult labor, and they cried out. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob, and God saw the Israelites, and God knew. God heard, God remembered, God saw, God knew. And God is all in for Israel. Salvation is coming. Salvation's on the way. He is going to save his people. He's going to make good on his promises for those aliens who are living in a foreign land. Aliens in a foreign land. And so it's a good reminder for us during this time of social distancing, our life turned upside down in the new normal, that all of us are and have been aliens. And if there's anything a pandemic will do, it's get us to start thinking about the things that really matter in life. Get us to focus on the things that truly matter. And when we start, all of a sudden, not just looking at when all the busyness of life goes away and we're just looking at what's going on in our own personal lives, we end up realizing that we spend a lot of time and energy working for stuff that isn't going to last. We can't take it with us. And we don't own any of this. God does. We're simply stewards of what God has given us. So we are stewards who are aliens. This doesn't belong to us. This world doesn't belong to us. This time itself does not belong to us. We're aliens. We're stewards. So, living as stewards and aliens, we don't get too attached, or we shouldn't get too attached to the things that we have. I'm not going to get all worked up if I lose it all, because this really isn't my home. This really isn't my stuff. This is all God's, and I'm simply a steward. Peter says this to his faith community in 1 Peter chapter 2. I urge you as strangers and exiles to abstain from sinful desires that wage war against the soul. Strangers and exiles. Don't get too attached. Don't get too obsessed over stuff that isn't eternal, because it's not good for your soul. Don't get worked up over stuff that isn't the gospel. Because in this world, we are simply strangers and exiles. So remember this week, when you're tempted to get all worked up over stuff that isn't the gospel, when you're tempted to be frustrated at the new normal, when your week isn't going the way it should, when the stuff that you order online shows up and it's not all quite right, when you get slighted this week, whatever happens, it just isn't the way you want it. Just remember, this isn't the main thing. Jesus is the main thing. Jesus is the main thing. People are the main thing. Jesus is the real stuff of life. And other people are the real stuff of life. And that's the stuff we should be focused on. So regardless of what happens this week, remind yourself, I'm just an alien living in a foreign land. Jesus has you. Jesus has me. He has me, he has you, just like he had Moses, just like he had Israel there in Exodus chapter 2. And one other thing that matters, not just the gospel, not just Jesus, not just you, not just me. One other thing that matters, even if the whole world burns down, is other people. Other people. We have to remind ourselves of that. Our neighbors. Your neighbors. People are looking for hope right now. People are looking for forgiveness. People are looking for grace. They just want to be assured that whatever happens, that Jesus is there to catch them. We have that. And so that's what we need to be about as well. We're giving that message and that hope to people. We have that for them. So this week, even if things aren't going our way, We remind ourselves that we are aliens and foreigners living in an alien land, and so is our neighbor. So let's be conduits of grace and hope and forgiveness for others this week. We can do that for our neighbors right here in Los Fresnos. That's today's conversation at the table. This week at the table, we're going to have other conversations at the table. We do this Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays, but there's other things going on as well. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7 o'clock right here on Facebook. We have Eyewitness Devotions, and Eyewitness Devotions at 7 in the evening. Right now, are all coming from the book of Acts. It's been a great study. We're going to continue that tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening, Thursday evening this week. Then Friday, of course, conversation at the table. Saturday, conversation at the table. Oh, Thursday, noon, Zoom, Bible study. This week we're going to be looking at Exodus chapter 2. We're going to be kind of diving a little deeper than we did yesterday or even right now. So I encourage you, join us for that. We'll do that on Zoom Thursday. Then, of course, on Sunday, our online services, 10:30, right here on Facebook and on YouTube. Make this a part of your week. If you got any comments for a conversation at the table, or you got comments or questions about the table, feel free to leave them right here on Facebook, or you can message us as well. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay at home as much as possible, and stay connected. Remember, Jesus has you. We are loved by Jesus for the love of Los Fresnos. Have a great Monday.